Hi. Good evening, all of you. I hope I'm visible and audible. Perfect. So, welcome, all of you. I am well. How are you all? Did you attend the VARC marathon? How did you find it? You can let me know. Good evening. Only Cat, Yash, Neelu, Adarsh, Amisha, uh, R7. Okay. Nerd without an E. Welcome. Amazing. Okay. All right. So I hope that it benefits your preparation. I have shared the relevant PDFs as well with you in the Telegram group. Those of you who are in the Telegram group. And yes, there's one practice RC that I gave you in that marathon. So you can practice that. I also wrote the answers there. You can match your answers as well. Right? That's okay, Amisha. Okay. So let's do some VA questions today. Okay. So I saw that in the VRC gym sessions that have happened. In the first two sessions, I focused on RC passages, and in the last session, we talked about VA. So I thought, why not have one more session of VA to create a balance, right? So now in VA questions, a lot of you tell me that odd sentence out is one question type where you want to get accuracy because let's say last year there was no negative marking, but it can trouble you a little, and I absolutely understand that. So I have four odd sentence out questions today and four para summary questions. So it will primarily be a practice of these two question types. Okay. All right. So let's begin with our first question. Now, here again, try. So I will also time you. You can also time yourself. Try that you attempt it within 2 minutes. Right? That should be the effort for a VA question. So let's see the first question. Tell me which is the odd one out. Okay, so I've got some responses here. Four responses. What about others? Okay, let's have a look. So, this seems in the first reading that it's a little abstract. Did you feel that? That you were trying to make sense of it? The notion of self, that's what it talks about. So, this notion of self, you were, yeah. So, in such in such paragraphs, always look for some grammar based clues as well, because in terms of reading you might be struggling with them already. So what can rescue you there? Looking for our grammar based clues. Okay, so for example, mm, if I say that this feeling of displacement can manifest Then it says this personal social dichotomy, right? So let's see, what does this personal social dichotomy refer to? Which other sentence talks about this personal social dichotomy? So if you see here, we again say personal identity against the background of social relations, right? So 1 and 4 seem related. So those who are saying that 4 is the odd one out, as 3, 4, 5, 6 of you have said this, that 4 is the odd one out. Don't you think 1 and 4 are related? 4 is off topic. Okay, let's see. So basically in this paragraph we are talking about our notion of self, our identity, right? So it says that the self is adjusted by every experience it passes through in a continuous attempt to gain self-apprehension and recover its sense of belonging. Basically the self wants to understand itself in a way to recover its sense of belonging as well, because when things change, when our experiences change, we may lose that sense of belonging, right? So every experience it passes through. Then 3 gives you some such experiences. Place, time, emotions and culture are only a few of the factors that impact upon the self. So these are those experiences, right, that will have an impact upon the self. Reconfiguring it, especially for an individual displaced and oscillating between cultures, right? So this was a generic sentence, a general sentence that said that our notion of self identity, it is impacted by various experiences. For example, our place may change, okay, time, let's say the times that we are living in, when they change in emotions, change in cultures, these are all those experiences are one of the few factors that impact upon the self. So thematically speaking, 5 and 3 seem related. So they seem related based on theme. Yes? Then we say that it is the quest for personal identity against the background of social relations that urges an individual to accept or reject certain representations of his or herself. So basically, see, when let's say you are displaced and oscillating between cultures, what is happening? You are on a quest, on a mission to find your personal identity. And this is against the background of social relations as well, because we are placing it in the context of a culture. So it is the quest for personal identity against the background of social relations that urges an individual to accept or reject certain representations of his or herself. So against this background, you are searching for your personal identity and you accept certain representations of self. So for example, if let's say I have been born in Delhi, and Delhi, let's say, has some culture of its own. Let's say a primarily urban culture. Let's just say that, okay? Now I am also trying to discover my personal identity against the background of really fast and urban social relations that exist in Delhi. So in this process, I may accept certain representations of myself. For example, let's say I also like to be seen as modern and urban, while I may reject certain representations of myself. For example, a lot of people have this notion that people from Delhi can be cunning. Okay, this is what I have heard a lot. So maybe this is a representation that I reject. Okay, so this is what one is trying to say. So it is the quest for personal identity against the background of social relations that urges an individual to accept or reject certain representations of his or herself. This personal social dichotomy, on one hand is your personal self, on the other hand there is your social self. So this personal social dichotomy has received scholarly attention, engendering numerous theories that aim to integrate the eclectic nature of identity. Our identity is not just personal, it is not just social, it's a mix. Okay, it has a very mixed nature. And this scholarly attention, the scholars, they are trying to put a coherent picture of the identity by combining all these aspects, looking into all these aspects. So which is the odd one out then? 2 actually. See here, tone should help you. So 5 3 I arranged using theme. 1 4 I could arrange using both theme as well as grammar. This dichotomy. Now, if you look at 2, it says this feeling of displacement can manifest as chronic anxiety or a sense of alienation, often requiring therapeutic intervention to resolve. Now, if you see this, while I do talk about this fact that the self is adjusted by every experience, right? I also talk about the word displaced here. The idea is on this quest for identity, this search for identity. It is not about the negative impact of this search. So here too gives me the negative impact of such a displacement, such a search. Whereas my paragraph is simply concerned about this search and how it has various facets to it. There is a personal facet, there is a social facet, right? So it has a very eclectic nature. Do you see this? Yes, 2 does seem out of context because the other sentences are not focused on the impact of the search. Yes? Therapy and the health consequences. This is not the focus of the rest of the discussion. Perfect. So I'm happy that it is now clear to you that 2 is the odd one out. So in such questions, make pairs, right? You can again look for theme based clues, grammar based clues, and see which is the one that does not match in terms of range, in terms of tone. So here I rejected on 2 bases. 2 is rejected, or 2 is the odd one out rather, because it does not match the range of discussion and its tone is slightly negative. Perfecto. Let's go to the second question. Again, an odd one out. Take your time and tell me the answer. Okay, I've got 4 responses. What about others? I want more responses. All right, let's have a look at this question. So here, again, you have to see what you have to form connections. This lack of knowledge, right? Also, if you notice in terms of theme also, the immediate range also, this uses the word gender perspective, and this talks about male and female authors. So there seems to be a thematic connection there. Okay, now it says this is talking about academic writing, justification for a research proposal, and again one is talking about providing arguments for research. So again seem related, right? So form such connections, read the sentences completely and form such connections. Okay, now somebody asked the meaning of rhetorical analysis. The word academic rhetoric is present here as well. So rhetorical analysis of students' theses. Rhetoric basically is a term related to language. Okay, so as a noun, it means the art of persuading, the art of convincing somebody, persuading somebody through your language, right? So one way to persuade people is by making arguments. The purpose of an argument is usually to convince someone, to persuade someone. Okay, so if you say that, X political party is the best political party because, and then you give reasons. So you are presenting an argument, and your purpose usually is to persuade people through this. So when students write thesis, right, when they write their, let's say when you write a research paper as a student, there you have a central argument which is called your thesis, your central argument. So now, of course, it will involve rhetoric because you are trying to convince somebody very, very logically through evidence of something, right? So while extensive research on the rhetorical analysis on how arguments have been constructed and presented, okay, of students' theses has been conducted, we know little about the way they state their claims. We don't know much about the way they state their claims from a gender perspective. How would a female author present an argument versus how would a male author present their argument? That is what we are talking about. So, aren't 5 and 1 related then? Moreover, it is believed that male and female authors may produce language differently, including how they provide arguments for research. Right? So, now 5 and 1 tell me that what is my concern, my immediate range in this paragraph. My immediate range or scope in this paragraph is to talk about arguments for research. Okay, arguments made while writing down, let's say, a research paper. Okay, so building arguments for academic writing. Writing a research paper comes under academic writing, right? So building arguments for academic writing, such as constructing justification for a research proposal, is regarded as a complex task. Okay. Now, moreover, just a second, we know little. Okay. Moreover, it is believed that male and female authors may produce language differently, including how they provide arguments for research. Okay. While extensive research on the rhetorical analysis of students' theses has been conducted, we know little about the way they state their claims from a gender perspective. So we know little. There is a gap, right, in our knowledge. This lack of knowledge represents a significant gap in our understanding of academic rhetoric. The way in academics we use the art of persuading people. Right? So 3 is the odd one out here. Now, a lot of you said 3, so I am happy about it that you were able to make connections. Okay, so complexity, then no, 1 and 5, somebody said this, no, 1 and 5 are pairs. 5 and 2 is a pair. 5 and 2 is a pair, right? And 4 and 1 would be a pair. All right. So I think the sequence should be 4, 1, 5 and then 2. Now 3, why is this the odd one out, and what exactly is corpus linguistics? Corpus linguistics, which involves the study of large collection of texts, provides quantitative tools to analyze linguistic patterns that might otherwise go unnoticed. Does this belong to this immediate discussion of construction of arguments, rhetoric, and the gendered perspective? It doesn't. So this is clearly sort of a definition of corpus linguistics, right? What it does, what it provides us with, its contribution, and does not match our current immediate discussion. Okay, so just for your knowledge, corpus linguistics is a very interesting field. Okay, so I did a master's recently, and my thesis, my research in master's that involved corpus linguistics. So basically, today we have large large pools of words, right? Sentences, and because of technology we are now able to put them in one place, right? It's a sort of a repository or store of sentences, of articles. And now from all those articles, from all the sentences, I can now search. For example, if I just want to search a word, so here is a corpus for you, just to show you. Why not 1 and 5? Okay, why are 1 and 5 not pairs? Yes. See, here it says, we know little about the way they state their claims from a gender perspective. So, don't you think that this lack of knowledge is something that should come immediately after this? Right? And okay, in case you are saying that 1 5 is a pair, okay, yes. The sequence is this 4 1 5 2. The sequence is 4 1 5 2. All right. So, yes, 1 5 is a pair. What I meant to say was that 1 should come before 5, because after 5 2 will come. Clear, only cat? Okay, so yeah, here's a corpus for you, just to show this to you. Now this corpus is, the name of the corpus is English Web 2021. So it has various sentences that it has combed from the web, from various web sources in 2021. Now I searched for this word. Let's say I wanted to increase my vocabulary and I wanted to really understand the meaning of the word interstices, but I wanted to know its usage. यूज़ कैसे होता है, सेंटेंसेस में कैसे यूज़ होता है. तो मैंने सर्च करा इंटरस्टिसेस और ये सारी एंट्रीज आ गई डिफरेंट सोर्सेज से. जैसे देखो, ये इंडियन सोर्स है .in, इकोनॉमिक एंड पॉलिटिकल वीकली, एक मैगजीन है. सो उसमें इंटरस्टिसेस ऑफ माइग्रेशन रेमिटेंसेज, राइट. यहाँ पर इंटरस्टिसेस ऑफ द एवरीडे, चॉक ब्लॉक डायरी. सो व्हेन यू रीड दिस सेंटेंसेस, इससे आपको पता चल जाएगा कि इंटरस्टिसेस कैसे यूज़ होता है. व्हाट इज़ इट्स मीनिंग बाय द वे? Basically spaces, tiny spaces, so gaps, and also intervals. So it is used for both space and time. So tiny, so I always tell you, utilize your interstices during your day, utilize them for vocabulary. So this is again, this is the utility of various corpora. The plural of corpus is corpora. तो ये मैंने एक कॉर्पस लिया हुआ है यहाँ पे, एंड आई एम जस्ट शोइंग इट टू यू हाउ इट कैन बी यूज्ड इन लिंग्विस्टिक्स. जैसे मुझे देखना था कि एसोटेरिक वर्ड जो है वो एज एन एडजेक्टिव कैसे कैसे यूज़ हो सकता है. जैसे कि एसोटेरिक के बाद क्या नाउन्स आ सकते हैं? एसोटेरिक बुद्धिज़्म, एसोटेरिक क्रिश्चियनिटी, टीचिंग्स, राइट. सो या, एनीवे, दिस इज जस्ट फॉर योर एक्स्ट्रा नॉलेज. नाउ लेट्स कम बैक टू आवर क्वेश्चंस. सो हियर we now have 2 parasummary questions. Let's attempt them. Okay. So here's your first question. Right. So you can access this. Okay. What does esoteric mean? Something understood only by a few people. It's an adjective. So if I say this piece of writing is so esoteric, that means it's very hard to understand. So something understood only, let me just write understood by few. Okay, not many. Perfect. So I want you to flex this vocab instead of me. Absolutely, abstruse is a synonym. Abstruse is a synonym. Arcane is again a synonym. Perfect. See, I am not flexing my vocabulary now. Okay. So I hope the 2 questions earlier were clear to you. Now let's see a parasummary question. Again, read it, eliminate, very, very important, and then give me the answer. Okay, I've got three responses. What about others? All right. So far, it's all A. Any other option that comes to your mind? Okay, B, C, all right, D. Perfect. Let's discuss this. Human behavior evolves as our knowledge increases. So, okay. But we are all subject to our own ways of construing or interpreting this knowledge. Because of the pervasive influence of social media, new knowledge is often overwhelmed by misinformation, right? So that further confuses us. So it can lead to misunderstandings, wrong interpretations, right? And provide easy access to conspiracy theories and alternative facts. In order to ensure that scientific advances work not just to create new medicines, but also to help lead to a healthier and more just world, we need. Now, see, this here is the author's viewpoint, isn't it? So, any summary has to capture the author's viewpoint. So, we need to ensure that science and social science work hand in hand as well. So, let's have a look at the options now. B says, those who have said B, scientific progress risks being undermined by social media misinformation unless both science and social science jointly address its societal and ethical consequences. Is the author saying that in the last sentence that science and social science must join hands in order to address the social and ethical consequences of social media? So, this is making an unnecessary connection here. Okay, the last sentence is not just about social media. So, it is making a connection here that has not been made by my paragraph. Eliminated. I hope this makes sense. Okay. C. Social media misinformation distorts how new knowledge influences behavior, making combined scientific and social science efforts crucial for health and justice goals. Okay. Seems like a strong candidate because we did talk about social media misinformation, right? We also said that it distorts new knowledge, right? And how will it so it says this, how will this new knowledge be distorted? Because it ends up confusing us. So we are now misinterpreting this knowledge, right? So this might distort how new knowledge influences our behavior. So we'll check this part again. Making combined scientific and social science efforts crucial for health and justice goals. So, yes, we do talk about combined efforts for health and justice goals, a more just and a healthier world. Okay. Now, compare it with A. See, because D can be very easily eliminated, this has only a joint approach can counter social media misinformation. So this is easy to eliminate because it is extreme. So the choice was between A and C. Now A says, while knowledge growth shapes human behavior, social media's misinformation demands science and social science cooperation to foster fairness and global health benefits. Okay. So, is this the main idea? I mean, or is this the main idea or a good summary? Yes. A versus C. Foster fairness. But we are talking about justice, aren't we? Management minds. C looks good. Right. See, because this says that this demands, social media's misinformation demands, right? So the language, isn't it quite forceful? You still feel okay, demands looks weird, right? So actually the idea here is that, see, while it is true that human behavior, it evolves as our knowledge increases, right? So we evolve in terms of our behavior. However, this knowledge, The behavior part will come later. First, this knowledge is interpreted by us, then only it influences our behavior. And now, what are the sort of roadblocks, or what is it that is leading us to misconstrue knowledge? The pervasive influence of social media. So, how can we solve the problem? Science and social science must work together so that we have healthier and a more just world. So basically combined scientific and social science efforts are crucial. See, so crucial says important, isn't it? Now we need to ensure that science and social science work hand in hand. This says that social media's misinformation is demanding this. This language becomes more extreme, more forceful. Okay. Now, justice and fairness, they are related, but they are not quite the same ideas, right? So, while fairness is something, you might have thought that just world maybe relates to fairness, but it better relates to health. Sorry, justice. Okay, just world relates better to justice and not fairness. Does that make sense? Because A and C are quite close. So we had to see what were the main points that needed to be covered in the para summary. Once we decide that, so we C actually explains what is this misinformation actually doing. And because of this, because this new knowledge is distorting our behavior as well, that is why combined efforts are necessary. Here, this is just saying that misinformation demands this. It's not the misinformation that is demanding it, it's the consequences of misinformation that is demanding it. Right? So, C is our answer. I hope this is clear to everybody and that I can proceed. So, Amisha, we didn't just eliminate it because of demands, we also eliminated it because it is not telling me what is this misinformation exactly doing. What is the consequence of this misinformation? Okay, demands is a word that is a red flag, and so is fairness instead of justice. That's what I was telling you earlier. Hanji, C है answer. ठीक है, चलो, perfect. Let's have a look at another para summary question then. See this and tell me. Okay, got my first response. I've got 3 answers. All 3 say B. Okay. Only cat, if you had to give an answer, what would you give? What would you say? Samu is like A is correct. No discussion there, A is correct. That's what Samu says. Okay. So most of you are correct here. B is the answer. Good. What future do we face? What future do we want? What must we do to get there? These three questions preoccupy us all. We can't predict the future. However, we can imagine it. So, what can we do? We can imagine it. See, however, whenever there are these words, contrast words, they always should, occupy your attention, right? They should catch your attention. However, we can imagine it and even design the future. No outcome is predetermined. And as cognitive human beings, we retain the agency to shape the world we want. Perhaps most critically, so definitely this has to figure in the para summary. We can also prepare for the future by confronting both the risks and that we can mitigate and the things that will surprise us. So we can prepare. So I'm just highlighting the important words. As the most effective conduits for ideas, narratives have the unique power. Conduits means channels. Okay. So they are like channels for ideas. Narratives have the unique power to help us determine what's going on, what lies ahead, and what needs to be done. Okay, so now here let's have a look at these three because I think A, B, and D is what you said. So C, I'm very happy that you eliminated because it is quite extreme, right? Guarantees complete control. Nowhere has the author used such definitive language. Okay. D says, although the future is uncertain, preparation through confronting risks and surprises is possible. Now see this. It says with narratives supporting decisions, yet imagining and designing remaining equally important. Does the author say, is the author kind of pitching these as sort of contradictory or saying that they are equally important? Narratives supporting decisions, yet designing and imagining remaining equally important? No, the author has not really first pitched them against each other, one thing, nor has the author commented on the fact that they are equally important. The author has just said most critically for this idea, this preparation for the future by confronting both the risks that we can mitigate and the things that will surprise us. So there is no comparison and trying to say that both are equally important. So this idea here, yet and equally important, this is additional. This is not there in my passage and therefore it is to be eliminated. I'll call it out of scope. Okay. A and B were the close options. So you should have narrowed down to A and B. Okay. Now again, see this, but broader agency. Narratives help interpret the present, anticipate challenges and decide actions. Absolutely correct, this part. But broader agency also allows us to imagine, design and prepare for unpredictable futures. Now, the thing is that again has the author sort of given you a contrast between these two ideas. That ठीक है, narratives help करते हैं, but broader agency भी है हमारे पास. So here this pitching, this contrasting tone, this is not present in my paragraph. My paragraph is saying that, see, okay, we can't predict the future. Fine. However, here we have a sort of a contrast. So see, this is captured here. Despite future's uncertainty, human agency enables imagining, designing, and preparing for risks and surprises. Yes? With narratives guiding, understanding what's going on, right? What lies ahead. So this part is understanding and shaping action, what needs to be done. So do you see, I have now put a tick on all the major ideas that I said are key ideas in the paragraph. And I have also preserved the tone. Okay, here was the contrast, right? And somewhat, yes ma'am, makes sense. Okay, so only cat is like, ma'am, bus, itna mat explain karo, aa gaya hame samajh. Good, I am happy that it is clear to you. All right. So Crystal clear why B versus A over A? You have to pay attention to the tone as well. Very, very important. Okay? Perfect. Then let's go to odd one out again. चलो गुड. ऑड वन आउट वापस से आ जाते हैं हम इनके पास. सो अटेम्प्ट दिस क्वेश्चन एंड टेल मी विच इज द ऑड वन आउट. यस. Got my first response. Okay. 3, 1. What else? Okay. 2 5s in the chat box. 3 5s. Okay. 4 5s. 1. Okay. Make pairs. Again, that will help you. When it says, for example, because of this, because of what? 1 and 3. There are 2 odd one out sentences. Okay. 5 is the answer. Good. Those who said 5. Let's have a look at why 1, 3, they all belong. Okay. First of all, tell me, if let's say this were a sequence parajumble, what would be the topic sentence of this paragraph? Yes. 2. Okay. Ultimately, actually 4 should be the topic sentence. Absolutely. When it says exile, what is exile? It's the unhealable rift forced between a human being and a native place. You are separating the two. It's a rift between the two and it's unhealable. So notice this language, unhealable, whose essential sadness, sorrow can never be surmounted, can never be overcome. So now see, when we talk about this, something left behind over. Okay. So it says, because of this, now I'll make a sequence, an exact sequence later on, but let's first see which are related. Because of these, the achievements of exile are permanently undermined by the loss of something left behind forever. Isn't this also capturing the sentiment? You had to really be emotional here. Yes. So it's again capturing the sentiment that even when you achieve something while in exile, it is still tainted by this loss. Right? Then it says that, and while it is true that literature and history contain triumphant episodes, triumph is victory. In an exile's life, exile is here the person who has been exiled. Okay. In an exile's life, there are no more than efforts meant to overcome the crippling sorrow of estrangement. There is a crippling sorrow, the kind of sorrow that just cripples your action. You feel like you can't act, you can't do anything. Of estrangement, being separated. So, it says that fine, literature and history, they do talk about these episodes where people who are in exile, they achieve a lot. But they still house this sorrow in them, right? Of the sorrow of estrangement. Ultimately, it is a state that is strangely compelling to think about. So, that's why perhaps literature also talks about it. It's very compelling to think about it, but terrible to experience. Right? Look at 5 now. Does it have that sort of sorrow? Does it have such words? Yes. Loss, sorrow, terrible, sadness, unhealable. No. It says the creative work of an exiled writer, for example, is often fueled by a heightened sense of observation, not loss, not sorrow, observation, and a unique detached perspective on their new surroundings. So it is not talking about that kind of sorrow that we are discussing in the other sentences. Okay, does that make sense? All right. So I hope this is clear to you. Yes, 1 and 3, they are connected. Absolutely, they are connected. Perfect. So here, see, I didn't make the entire sequence, but I noticed what was the underlying current, right? So the underlying current was that of sorrow, loss, sadness. Okay, so what would be the final order? 4 is definitely the opening sentence. Yes, tell me, should 3 come or should 1 come later on after 4? Because 2, uh, I think 2 can be the final sentence. Hmm. Okay, so you feel 2 can come even after this. Okay, all right. So, because of this, the achievements of exile are permanently undermined by the loss of something left behind forever. Because of what? Okay, you feel 1 3 is a pair. All right. So, 4 1 3 and then 2. But when we say that ultimately it is a state that is strangely compelling to think about but terrible to experience. So it is a state refers to exile. So should it come here for 2, or should we first talk about 1, 3 and then 2? Okay, you feel that 2 should come at the end. Those who've given me answers towards the end. Okay. Because of this, the achievements of exile. All right. Okay. No more than efforts. Okay, some of you are saying 4, then 3, and then 1, and then 2. Okay. Mm, these are no more than efforts. Crippling sorrow, right? So I think it should be uh, 4. 2 should come at the end, right? And then I can say, while it is true. Okay. No, 3 and then 1. 3 and then 1. 4 3 1 2. Why? Because look at this language here. These are no more than efforts meant to overcome the crippling sorrow of estrangement. So this is kind of giving us an idea how terrible the experience is, right? It's a crippling sorrow. So that is how 1 and 2 seem very related. So 4 3 1 2. Okay, that should be the sequence. All right, then let's have a look at this one. Right, Simar. Correct. Okay, let's have a look at this one now. Okay, I have got unanimous threes in the chat box, and absolutely all of you are correct. So, see, this one was an easy question. So, in case, see, if you have two odd one out questions, right, you should take a stab at both these questions in the exam as well. Okay, in the mocks, in the sectionals, in the exam, because it is a possibility that one of them turns up to be a question like this, right? Turns out to be a question like this. So, do give it a shot. Yes, it took very less time, absolutely. And if you see your previous year papers, you will find some such questions. Okay, so it's not fiction, it has happened in the past. Yes, 3 actually talks about their efforts at maintaining strong ties. So this is very, very factual. It's all data oriented. 1, 2, 4, and 5, right? So the tone is very objective. Whereas here, this becomes a little descriptive, or it goes into depth as to the experience of these migrants. They have to forge a new identity, yet they want to maintain strong ties with those back home. Perfect, perfect. All right. So, um, okay, the past 4 decades. All right. West Indian migration, the largest, more than half a billion, about twice the size. Okay, right. So here, I feel that so some of you are saying 2 and then 5. Why? Why 2 and then 5? Tell me. Hmm. First, if I'm talking about 2, then I have talked about the West Indian migrations. Migration. So shouldn't I put 1 after 2? Hmm. So I think it should be 2 and then 1. Okay, then 5, because here I'm saying, see, Caribbean is a bigger region, right? So if one puts together all the migrants from the Anglophone Caribbean, so first I started the discussion with West Indies, then I say, okay, if you put together all the migrants from the larger area, then they are the largest immigrant group in New York City. And what is the result of that, right? So 2 1 and then 5 4. 2 and 4. No, no. See, Caribbean and Caribbeanized. This is a pair, right? So first I talk about the specific country, okay, and then I go about the larger region, puts together all the migrants from the Caribbean. Okay, we need to conclude after 1 and 2 and then explain 5. Yes, 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 absolutely. That's why we have made the sequence as 2 1 5 4. Okay, all right. So let's again come back to a para summary question, right? The last question for the day. Tell me, what should be the answer? Roshan, okay, let's go back. So, Roshan, what do you want me to explain? Why is this the odd one out? Because if you notice, I'm just giving you data about migration from West Indies, right? And what number has migrated, what has been the consequence, right? Whereas this becomes a little more human, personal, social sciences type discussion, right? That for many of these migrants, maintaining strong ties with those back home while forging a new identity in America becomes a central and often challenging life project. So, this is something that will come in a discussion on their experiences, whereas this is a discussion on not their experiences but their statistics. So, that's why 3 is the odd one out. Okay? All right. So, only cat. Last question. It's easy. Let's see what you say. Okay. All right. Got two responses. Okay. B, A, C, D. A good start, but the ending is spoiling things for you. Okay, B or C, but going with B. Hmm. Okay. So I thought that this was quite an easy question because if you see, all this at the cellular level, we are just talking about how our bodies are dynamic. So actually, this is the main idea. From here to here, these are all examples, aren't they? Of how our body is very dynamic as a creek, basically a water body that keeps flowing, right? So these are all examples. Now, then you have to focus on this part. Okay, so let me just change the color so that we know, okay, this is the main idea and now this is the main idea. Among the few biological components that endure, so these are also examples in a way. Among the few biological components that endure or that remain the same from birth to death is a small cluster of transparent proteins in the lens of our eye. Right? And then the author gives us an analogy that, okay, but the window remains that, so these transparent proteins in the lens of our eye, they are like that fixed window that while the scenery changes, right, the window that remains. So then tell me, बताओ क्या आंसर होना चाहिए? I think Anant was the first one to give the correct answer. A is the answer here. Because see this, those who are saying, let's say, enduring lens proteins, persistent lens proteins persist, these are also among the few biological components that persist, right? So this is also an example. So rare elements like lens proteins, okay, rare elements, few biological components, rare elements. So A is the answer here. Human bodies and minds renew most structures and functions over varying time scales, right? So 15 years, 4 months, 24 hours. So varying time scales have also been the focus. With rare elements like lens proteins remaining in continuity as perceptions evolve, right? So our understanding of it, the scenery changes, our understanding of it, but some rare elements remain the same. Okay, no, few biological components has been paraphrased as rare elements. So not B, C and D. D says almost all biological and cognitive features change gradually. Okay. Most structures and there, so first of all there is a difference between almost all, nearly all and most, right? So almost all change gradually, but the lens proteins persist, maintaining a fixed window through which shifting perceptions are experienced. This is an analogy that is given to us. We can't say that the lens proteins persist maintaining a fixed window, right? So this is interpreting it quite literally. ये चीज़ metaphorical है, यहाँ पे analogy दी हुई है कि it's like a car. ठीक है? Okay. B, C, is this clear to you? Why B and C are not the answers? So the biggest clue came here, and right on looking at this, I marked A as the answer. Okay, so these were your questions for today. Yes, B is distorted in saying that enduring lens proteins offer a stable frame through which our evolving perceptions are filtered, right? So we just had to say that they remain the same or they persist. Okay. All right. Understanding is why are we including it in the main description as perception? Okay. So our when we say that, and so does our understanding of it. So our understanding of the scenery evolves. So perception doesn't just mean our something related to our senses. The way I perceive something is also the way I understand it, right? So perceive here has not just been used in a very physical sensory manner. It has been used in the sense of understanding. Even when you Google the synonyms of perception, you will find understanding there, right? All right. So this is what I had brought for you today. It said B. No, no, no. You just ask it, are you sure? The given answer is A. Then let's see what it says. Okay? Okay. All right, then. I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Perfect, Shanavas. That means you were on the right track. You understood that this lens protein is also an example. Okay, sure, Yatharth. Bye bye. See you next time.